Today, the stars of the PPG Kart World Series are on track in preparation for round 14, the Texaco Havoline 200. Here are the weather conditions. The temperature has not changed, the wind has not changed, but the humidity is coming down because the rain has stopped. Forecast calls for clouds and clearing, and that's the best news at all. It's going to be a long afternoon here at Road America. After 13 rounds of the championship, 10 men from 7 teams are still in the running, led by Alex Zanardi with a 27-point lead over Paul Tracy. No matter what happens here, Zanardi will be the leader in 2 weeks' time as we move to Vancouver. But the 9 men behind him can take a big step closer to the Italian in the run for the PPG Cup. Welcome everyone, I'm Bob Varsha, along with 4-time Road America pole sitter and race winner Danny Sullivan. Danny, a long rain delay. The drivers have had a lot of time to walk around, play cards, get ready for this race. What does it do to their heads?
Very tough. They've been up for a long time. Remember, your optimum performance comes about 5 hours after you wake up. We're long into a day. What's going to happen right now is with these big fat tires and low slung cars, they're going to suck the moisture off of this track like a vacuum.
Así es, pero ahora lo difícil, aquí podemos ver ahí las llantas de Michael Andretti que trae estas llantas Goodyear. Aquí lo interesante es que cuando hay mucha agua, Firestone funciona muy bien. Cuando está entre piso mojado y piso seco, Goodyear funciona mejor.
And contributing to it is the track itself. 4 miles of asphalt here in eastern Wisconsin. 14 turns. There you see the passing areas and the danger zones. About 160 feet of elevation change. The highest point, the start-finish line. The lowest point on the long backstretch between turns 11 and 12. Joining us this week down in turn 5, a prime passing area, Trans Am racer Tommy Kendall, who yesterday in the rain here at Road America picked up his record-extending 10th consecutive win this year. Welcome, Tommy. What do you expect down there in 5?
I'll tell you what, there is nobody more excited than I am right now, because if I had to pick one place to watch a motor race anywhere in the world, it would be turn 5 at Elkhart Lake. So what makes it so exciting is there are very few places where you can see an IndyCar go from top speed 200 miles an hour down all the way through the gearbox to first gear, and it's none in a setting like this. So I'm ready to go racing. The fans here are pumped.
All right, thank you, Tommy. Now let's take a look at the starting grid for today's Texaco Havoline 200. On the pole for the 2nd time this year, Mauricio Gugelmin of Brazil, still looking for his first win alongside his teammate, Mark Lundell. His win in Toronto came from the 2nd starting position. Row 2, Alex Zanardi, who's won 3 of the last 4 races to take the points lead, and Dario Franchitti, the fastest rookie qualifier for the 6th time this year. Row 3 will be Michael Andretti, a 3-time winner here, including last year, and Scott Pruitt, who won earlier this year in Australia. Row 4 will be Gilles de Ferran, who scored points in 9 of the last 10 races, alongside Brian Herta, who was close to his first career win before an exploding tire put him on the sidelines last week at Mid-Ohio. Row 5 will be Raul Boesel of Brazil and Greg Moore, the runner-up last week at Mid-Ohio. Row 6 will be Bobby Rahal, the only driver to have started all 16 races here at Elkhart Lake, and Walter Salas, who qualified to equal his best career start. Row 7 will be Jimmy Vasser, the reigning PPG Kart World Series champion, and Al Unser Jr., although he's never won here, he's finished 2nd 4 times. Row 8 will be Paul Tracy, the 93 winner here at Road America, and Andre Ribeiro. On Row 9, Parker Johnstone and Christian Fitipaldi, who led the first 15 laps here a year ago. Row 10 will be Michael Jourdain Jr. and Patrick Carpentier, who's in a backup car after a big practice crash down in Canada Corner. Row 11 will be Juan Fangio II, the fastest Toyota qualifier for only the 3rd time this year, and Adrian Fernandez. On Row 12, Max Pappas, one of his best career finishes, a 9th, came here last year. He'll be alongside Richie Hearn in one of the troublesome Lolas. On row number 13, P.J. Jones and Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Toyota-powered Eagle Reynard, and Arndt Meyer, one of 7 drivers making his first start here at Road America. On row 14, Japanese driver Hiro Matsushita and Charlie Nierberg making his 2nd career start, following up on Cleveland. There's a view from high overhead. The cars are on the track. Let's get down to Gary Gerald.
This is a very big day for the tire manufacturers and their new rain tires. A year ago, Goodyear had a dominant edge. Then we saw rain in Portland this year, and it was Firestone leaping ahead and Goodyear struggling to catch up. Firestone came in with a new channeling device in the grooves on their rain tire. They've won 7 straight this year, but as the track dried in Portland, conditions that are very similar to right now, Goodyear quickly caught up. So what did Firestone do in the interim? They went and came up with a new compound to make this tire more durable. If the track dries, they hope it'll be a more successful tire than it was at Portland. Goodyear, meanwhile, has made key changes too, and Marty Reed has that story.
Thanks, Gary. Yes, they went back to the drawing board after handing their lunch handed to them at Portland by Firestone. The Goodyear engineers came up with an entire new tread design, a lot more grip. That's what they were going for in the heavy, wet conditions. Their tire just did not perform well. But as Gary pointed out, as the track dried out, then their tire worked better, worked longer than the Firestone. So now they've given up some of that durability to get more grip in the wet. This is going to be real interesting, Bob.
All right, thanks very much, guys. This is the final pace lap before we anticipate the green flag. Here are some of the stories we'll be following. The weather, of course, has been a tremendous factor, washing off rubber buildup and so forth. Tires, it's been declared a wet race. Everyone must start on grooved wet weather tires. We'll see how they hold up. Staying on track will be everything. The drivers have been told if you wind up in a gravel trap, your race is over, and the grass is very, very slick. And of course, it's all about the battle for the championship. A great race about to unfold. Stay with us. We're just moments away from the green flag here at Road America. Welcome back to Road America. In the famous carousel turn is Michael Andretti. Here is our race analysis. A 4-mile permanent road course. 50 race laps planned. The pole speed 142.342 miles an hour by Mauricio Gugelmin, a new track record. And that was in Friday, first round qualifying. It was wet on Saturday and nobody improved. The race record for the distance, the lap 126.205 miles per hour. Michael Andretti way back in 1991, and the pit window between 19 and 21 laps, although that is a very much up in the air figure as this track dries, that could change. As Danny Sullivan mentioned earlier, everything is a jump ball on a drying track here at Road America.
At the beginning of this race with these wet conditions, they're going to get tremendous fuel consumption. But as the track dries and they go and they put drier tires on, slick tires on, they go out, their fuel consumption is going to go down. That will help it and make it a more exciting race. But again, it's going to come to strategy. When do you stop? When do you take a chance? We have one of these full course yellows.
As you see down there under the trees on the back straightaway through Canada Corner and the high-speed King, still very, very wet as the rooster tails come out. Now we will be using a single file start for safety purposes. I'm sure the drivers are all in favor of that. Mauricio Gugelmin leads his Pac West teammate Mark Lundell through turn 14. A massive crowd has been here all day long awaiting this moment. The green flag to start the Texaco Havoline 200 over the brow of the hill. They come. The green flag race here underway. On board with Michael Andretti. Dario Franchitti just ahead, already a switch. Turn 2 down to turn 3, sharp right-hander. Zanardi is third, and Walter Salas is off the track, and someone has flipped into the tire wall. Can't tell who that is upside down, but we have a full course caution. It appears to be one of the Penske cars that's up on its roll hoop.
They need to get to this car quickly. The driver is not enjoying being underneath there like that. Here comes the safety crew.
The kart safety team swings into action. Let's take another look. This is turn 3. Salas spins. Paul Tracy collides with him, and the concrete wall helps to turn him over.
That was a very unfortunate. It was nobody's fault there. Walter Salas just spun. Paul Tracy tried to take avoiding action. Safety crew underneath there talking to him.
Roger Penske looking on, still looking for his 100th career victory in the series, but right now his thoughts are with Paul Tracy. The initial report is that Paul Tracy is okay inside the car. Obviously he can't turn it over by himself, and the kart safety crew will be very careful to make sure that he is stable inside that car before they try to turn it over or extract it.
You might ask why too. Why aren't they just up there pushing on the tires and turning it over? Of course, they want to make sure he's stable and that nothing happens to him. See now, here's Paul Tracy right here. He's going to try to take avoiding action because here's Walter Salas on that part of the track. But Salas' rear tires are still spinning. He moves over there. Paul gets up in the air. Car's still okay, but he goes in sideways into the tire wall, and those tires just get underneath the car. They just act as a launching ramp.
It goes back to one of our stories about staying on the racetrack because it is very, very slick when you get onto that super saturated grass. Our safety team is turning the car over. Marty Reed has more.
Yeah, I'm down here in Davis Racing, and they said they have talked with Walter. He said there was contact with Jimmy Vasser, and that's what started him turning around, and he had nowhere to go, and he saw Paul go right up over his front nose. Gary?
With typical Penske efficiency, as soon as they had radio contact that their driver apparently is okay, Penske immediately ran to the crew and said, get the backup car ready, get it ready. They're checking to see with CART if they can put it in. As Tracy now gets out of the car, there is the possibility, since it's the first lap of this race, that they could run the backup car. That's what they're efficiently doing now, getting the backup car out. We'll wait for a ruling from CART officials if in fact he could get into that car. Thankfully, he's okay. That's the big news.
All right, thank you, Gary. Walter Salas started 12th, Jimmy Vasser 13th, Allenzer Jr. 14th, and Paul Tracy 15th. So they were all close together on the racetrack down there in 3. There you see Paul Tracy talking with the CART safety team.
Bob, I don't have to tell you how unfortunate that is for Paul Tracy, but if you watch the tape, it's one of the things they teach you, and one of the first things in driver's school when you spin is lock the tires and the car will keep going in that direction. And what happened is Walter, I think, thought he maybe had it under control, let his foot off the brakes, and he rolled forward. Paul Tracy had already committed to the inside, and there was nowhere to go.
I think also, of course, Roger Penske was keen to see if they could get that spare car going. I don't think Paul Tracy's looking too anxious to go back there. He's already got his helmet off. He's going to start the walk back.
And Danny, if we can interrupt, I believe that a red flag would have to fly in this situation for them to be able to go to the backup car. We're trying to get clarification on that, but that's the initial word here. Penske pondering with his troops right now.
Well, if in fact Paul Tracy cannot get back in the car, there is Roger Penske conferring with his team. It would be Paul Tracy's 3rd DNF of the year, his 2nd in a row. And keep in mind, he was the points leader for 7 straight races after winning 3 in a row earlier this year. So the dark clouds remain over Paul Tracy's 1997 season, at least in the second half. We'll take a break and return for more of the Texaco Havoline 200. We're under the yellow. Welcome back to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We are under the yellow flag with 2 laps complete. There is Paul Tracy headed for the CART safety unit, where he'll get a complete checkup following a massive tumble in turn 1.
Walter Salas there sideways in your screen, keeping his wheel spinning. Paul Tracy trying to go around him. Gets hooked right there, sliding right in, touches the barrier. Now watch what the tires do. Up and over. Luckily, these cars are very safe, and the roll bar and the restrictions are very good. He walked away from that incident, but they want to check him out in the CART medical.
Down to Marty Reed.
Yeah, and you can see this is the damage that happened to Walter's car. You can see right where Paul Tracy came up over the nose, and this is the only piece of damage that he had on his car. He is back out on the race course. Bad news, though, for Patrick Carpentier. I saw the engine cover coming off. I'm heading there to check on that. Gary?
Paul Tracy is in the medical center being examined at this time. Because there was no red flag, that eliminated the option of the Penske team even considering the backup car. You want to be able to put that to rest. Had there been a red flag, they could have considered going to a backup car if Tracy was cleared by medical. And he's cleared. We'll try to get a word with him.
Of course, Gary, one other factor with that, with it being a yellow, even if they had allowed him back in, by the time he got back to the pits, got into that car, he probably would have been a couple of laps down, which even on this long track, and that would have really eliminated any shot at the championship.
But without that red flag, Danny, they didn't even have that option. As long as it was yellow, they could not have him go to the other car.
Once again, Mauricio Gugelmin, the pole sitter, brings the field down to the green flag. The 6th race of the year, Gugelmin is running the road in a row as he seeks his first win. We are back underway. Approaching turn 1. And the accident took place just a couple of laps ago.
Bob, one thing that's happened here, of course, is everybody got a lap under the green before, or at least most of the way around. So they got to feel where the track was really slippery. They made a mistake before. They won't make it this lap.
Up to top speed on this drying track. Gugelmin headed for Tommy Kendall in 5.
Big Mo has a nice comfortable lead. It'll give him a chance to kind of seek out his brake mark because they didn't get a reconnaissance lap. Danny said they did get to see it once at speed before the yellow came out, but back in the pack, Greg Moore making some moves as well. Everyone's through here cleanly. A couple guys crossed up, but everyone looks like they're taking it pretty careful. A couple guys are looking like they're going to be aggressive, but everybody else, I think, just wants to get through this and settle into their pace.
There you see Greg Moore, twice a winner this year, although he has really been through a dry spell of late. Points in his last 4 races. On board with Dario Franchitti, running just behind Alex Zanardi, 3rd and 4th. Down to Gary Gerald with Paul Tracy.
Paul, have you ever been upside down in any kind of a race car, let alone an IndyCar before?
No, I mean, I've been racing since I was 7 and never got upside down before, so it's a pretty sad day for the Marlboro crew. The race had only just started, and you know, Walter spun in front of us, and I had to go one way or the other, and I guess I chose the wrong way, and you know, just clipped him, and the tire barrier rolled me over. So it's you know, it's pretty disappointing for the championship for us, and we just can't seem to buy any luck right now.
Seems like too many times we've been having to talk to you lately early in a race about this championship that is now disappearing with only the 3 races to go after this. The challenge really is huge now, isn't it?
Well, it really is. I mean, we had a lot of good luck to start the season. We had a lot of things go wrong, places like we were spun in Brazil and still came off and won the race. So we had some good luck, and I guess it's catching up with us now. We're just can't seem to have any good luck right now.
Hey, I'll tell you, good luck that you're okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that I'm seeing, Tommy, is that even this stage, the second lap in the race, drivers are trying to find some spots on the track to cool their tires off. Now, what's interesting is, from my point of view, you don't want to make a mistake and throw it away, because if the track is going to dry, you've got a much better chance later on.
We should point out that this race is under a 2-hour time limit scheduled for 50 laps. The track is drying. The cars will be getting quicker. But right now, we're at the 1-hour 45 mark remaining in the race. As you see, Greg Moore following Brian Herta. Both of them factors in the race at Mid-Ohio last week. Let me correct myself on Greg Moore. He was 2nd last week at Mid-Ohio. That ended a run of 3 straight races without championship points. Brian Herta is 8th. Moore is 9th, and there you see the gap between them. Patrick Carpentier, as we mentioned earlier, made a long pit stop. Marty Reed has more.
Yeah, and he's going to be here a little while longer. He has no 4th gear, and in fact, he is now climbing out of the car, and that may spell doom for this team. These guys just can't buy a break.
Carpentier, the young French-Canadian, who won the Toyota Atlantic Championship last year, and ironically has struggled not on the ovals, with which he didn't have much experience coming into the season, but on the road courses, where you'd think he would be quite at home. Through the carousel, Herta in black and white, Moore in blue and white.
Of course, you can see right there the track is drying on line. They're getting a groove laid down. These cars go around, those big fat tires, they'll draw all that moisture out. They'll stay wet down there in the trees. See those puddles on the left? But up above on the higher parts of the track, as it dries out, they'll all start thinking slicks as soon as they can.
An interesting thing, the Trans Am race, it took 80 miles to dry the track out. These cars, with the ground effect, they pull the moisture up into the air and essentially atomize it, and it takes a while. It dries out much, much quicker. Here we are just a few laps in with no rain, and already you're seeing a dry line in places.
The flags are snapping in the pit lane. That means the breeze is blowing, and that will help dry the track as the race goes on. The order is Gugelmin, Lundell, Franchitti, Zanardi, Andretti, DeFerrin, Pruitt, Herta, Moore, and Boesel, the top 10. Franchitti moved up from 4th to 3rd ahead of the points leader. Welcome back to Road America. Under treacherous conditions, the Texaco Havoline 200 goes forward. This battle is for 7th place. Scott Pruitt, Brian Herta ahead of him, Greg Moore behind him. And behind Moore is Pruitt's teammate, Raul Boesel. Through the high-speed kink, as fast as you dare go. Patrick Carpentier has climbed from his car, and Marty Reed is with him.
Yes, and the points leader for Rookie of the Year does not have a smile on his face. You guys just can't seem to buy a break right now.
Yeah, we've been struggling a little bit, and luck doesn't seem to be on our side. I think we had a good car this weekend. We're third and then 12th in the first practice. Then I had a big shunt in the wall, so we had to use the backup all weekend. Then now we had a problem with the gearbox we couldn't go. So it's a shame for the Rookie of the Year championship, but Dario's very quick, so maybe he'll make some point today. But he didn't have much of a breakthrough this year, so it's both the same for us.
We'll see you next race.
Thank you.
So the leader in the rookie standings is now out of the race. The number 2 man in the championship points, Paul Tracy, also out of the race. That could hurt both of them. Right now, Carpentier's rival for the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year award, Dario Franchitti, runs 3rd. Through turn 1 and plunging downhill. This is turn 2. And then turn 3, the right-hander. Moore all over Scott Pruitt.
Bob, one of the problems that he has is, of course, the line is drying. If he tries to make a pass and gets out of that drying line and onto the damp conditions, he doesn't have as good a braking grip as he would on the dry line, so it's very tough to pass.
There's Bobby Rahal just behind Raul Boesel. Steep uphill here. There's Jimmy Vasser coming on, going around Andre Ribeiro. Vasser still looking for his first win in '97.
He had the kind of classic crisscross there. Andre got underneath Jimmy going into turn 5. Jimmy just let him have it and just crisscrossed right back underneath him and drove right back by him going up to 6.
Good battle going on behind Andre Ribeiro as Parker Johnstone and Christian Fitipaldi dice.
Talking about the offline, you've got a curious situation here at Road America where online braking, until the track is completely dry, it's still better online or offline inside, where on the insides of the corners, even though the preferred line might be a little bit drier. So you will actually be able to see people. Once they figure that out, they'll be able to pass people even though it looks like it's wetter where they're going.
Christian Fitipaldi passed Parker Johnstone to move into 14th place. And right now his sights are on Andre Ribeiro in 13th. Fitipaldi led 15 laps here a year ago, looking very strong before a mechanical breakdown dropped him in the middle part of the race. And right now he's going to try Ribeiro uphill. We apologize for the poor video quality of our onboard cameras. We have a very low sky, and the helicopter that receives the signals from the race cars has to stay at a low altitude. This is the battle for second place. Mark Lundell with a day-glow orange nose on his Motorola-sponsored Reynard, and Dario Franchitti having another great drive for Carl Hogan.
Bob, I might point out, too, that Big Mo Gugelmin, who's the leader of the race, is not very far in front of this duo. You can see him right there at the top of your screen. That's first, second, and third.
Danny just talked with Mo Gugelmin's team here. He has radioed in that the track is definitely drying, but it is his call, and since he's the leader, I think everybody will be following him, but he will make the decision as to when to come in to go to slicks.
Plunging downhill through the part of the racetrack known as the Hurry Downs. Look at all that mud in the outside of that corner. They have to be very careful there, and it's definitely closing up. Franchitti just behind Blundell, and Gugelmin is being drawn in a bit as well. Franchitti looks a little tentative on the throttle there in the carousel.
But look at him close. He picked it up early. He's going to try to go inside the kink. Thinks better of it. That's a very fast place, and you're not on the brakes there. But what he's letting Mark Lundell know is, hey, I'm back here, and I'm trying to find a way around you. That place is not safe.
And look at the gap behind Dario Franchitti. Nobody in sight as they turn right at Canada Corner. Turn number 12.
That's Michael Andretti.
Alex
Zanardi right behind him. Sorry, Tommy.
Michael has gotten around Alex. When they came through turn 5, Michael had started to close up, and these are the exact conditions where the Goodyear started taking back some of the edge that they did not have in the heavy rain at Portland. So it would be interesting to follow that. The front guys that have checked out are all on Firestones. But with Michael moving up as it's drying out, maybe we'll see the same situation.
The gap from third to fourth, 5.6 seconds.
Now you wonder why everybody's diving around like that, or everybody at home. They're trying to find the damp spots to cool the tires. run them through some water, they cool the tires down so that you can keep the grip in the corners, because those dry patches will really overheat and use up a wet tire.
See the flicker of vortexes at the top edges at either end of the rear wings as the moisture condenses in the air. Part of the complex aerodynamic treatment of these race cars. Greg Moore between the two Brahma-sponsored Patrick Racing teammates, Scott Pruitt in 8th and Raul Boesel in 10th. Working lap number 9. Each lap 4 miles long. And that sheer length of this racetrack plays a role in race strategy. Rushing downhill now to turn 5. Battle cools for the moment as the elevator goes up to turn number 6. Mauricio Gugelmin out front, followed by his Pac West teammate Mark Lundell. We'll be back. Back at Road America, heading toward the start-finish line, running side by side the Pac West teammates as Mark Lundell moves past Mauricio Gugelmin to take the lead. Headed towards 1, here comes Gugelmin. Keep in mind, this is the Pac West team that for the last 2 years consecutively has seen both of their cars go out of this race in collisions with each other.
Also, the 3 cars that we're looking at right now are all the same package. They are all Reynards. They are all on Firestone, and they're all powered by Mercedes. So we're seeing a pretty equal group of cars right now.
How quickly things change. A lap ago, Mark Lundell had his hands full with Dario Franchitti. It's like he hit the afterburner. Next thing you know, he's pulled away from Franchitti and taken the lead in the space of about a half a lap.
That's the voice of Tom Kendall joining us this weekend here at Road America, having won his 10th straight SCCA Trans Am race yesterday. Flames from the exhaust of Mark Lundell's Mercedes-Benz.
I can also tell you where there's some frustration. Forget Franchitti for a second. For Big Mo, here he is on the pole, and he's been with this team for a couple of years, and his new teammate has won 2 races this year, and now now his teammate has passed him and is in the lead. That's very frustrating because his car is clearly not handling quite as well as Mark's.
That's the view from our Honda Helicam, piloted by Craig Ralston, who's been up there a long time today as we tried to get this race underway. Working lap number 10 of 50, up against the 2-hour time limit. The clock now down to 1 hour 33.5 minutes remaining.
To give you an idea, the track looks pretty good, but these cars are running almost 30 seconds slower than they qualified. So it's still going to be a while. I think this track, for whatever reason, holds a lot of water, and it's going to be a little while before they come in.
On board now with Franchitti. Just ahead is Gugelmin as they turn through turn 14, past the pit entrance, and climb 110 feet to the start-finish line. Still seems to be lots of moisture there on the front straightaway. Lundell leading for only the 4th time this year, but he won 2 of the previous 3 races he has led before today.
Bob, the real wet-dry situation is very complicated because this is a 4-mile track. We're now on the upper level of it, but as they work down after we've seen them at Tom Kendall's position, they go down that hill and go into the carousel and the kink. They get down there in the trees and everything, and the track stays wet. So although they might have a good dry spot up at the top, there's still too many wet spots out there for them to jump over the slicks at this stage.
Climbing to turn 6, the left-hander. A huge crowd on hand here today at Road America, despite the fact that it rained heavily for more than 6 hours before this race began. Now into Hurry Downs and down to that very, very muddy turn number 8. Into the carousel. A long, long right-hander. You see the cars way over on the outside of the turn. Now Franchitti darts to the inside to try to take advantage as Gugelmin comes off the corner and cannot stop Franchitti's move into 2nd place. past the lap car of Charlie Nierberg in his second start. Another challenging race for the series rookie here on a very, very fast track in very wet conditions. There is Michael Andretti in the 4th spot.
Michael, who said earlier today, well, I think I'll just take it kind of easy out there and score the points. This doesn't look like a guy that's taking it easy. He's hanging in, trying to reel in those 3 Firestone runners, him being, of course, on Goodyear tires.
Watch the at the line graphic at the upper left as we measure the interval from race leader Mark Lundell back to those who follow. Michael Andretti a little over 8 seconds behind the leader. Alex Zanardi 10.8 seconds. Gilles de Ferran almost 20 seconds back. Michael's last lap was only 0.2 of a second slower than the race leader. There's Franchitti headed for turn 5. Marty Reed has more on him.
Yeah, one of the things we checked with the team and said, as this dries out, is the car going to get better or worse? And they said, we think it'll get better because we went with a compromise setup and sort of leaned towards the dry track. And I'm wondering just how many other cars. I bet you Michael Andretti, if we go down and check with them, I bet you they're probably on a dry setup as well. What do you think, Danny?
Marty, of course, if you have a really well-balanced car, they don't change very much from the wet to the dry. If somebody's got a car that's not handling very well, they might have thrown on a softer setup to get the grip in the wet. But everybody saw those skies were clearing and that the track was drying. I think they stayed pretty much with what they qualified.
Franchitti through the carousel. Now we have slick tires on the wall. That's Mauricio Gugelmin's pit in the Hollywood Reynard. So it looks as though the Brazilian, who started from pole for this race, will switch to the potentially quicker slicks when he comes in. Recall at Portland, where it was a lap-to-lap decision as to when to put on the slicks.
And what we also saw at Portland was some of the drivers made the decision a little bit early and paid the price, spinning off on the track. Paul Tracy, Big Mo, they didn't have any damage, but it cost them a little bit of time and ultimately the win.
This man and his crew made the decision perfectly. Mark Lundell got onto the slick tires and was able to run down Gilles de Ferran to win the closest 3-way finish in series history. We'll be back to Road America. Back at Road America, Michael Andretti pits from 5th place. The first of the front-running cars to make his pit stop, and it looks like slick tires are going on for Andretti.
Michael must not like the way his car is handling on wets. He lost a lot of ground to Zanardi and actually lost a spot to Zanardi before he made the stop. This is pretty early on, so maybe he's not happy with those Goodyears.
Down comes the visor, foot down hard, back out into the race. Now here's Michael Andretti moments ago battling with Alex Zanardi over 4th. Whoa! There is Michael back out on slicks.
Of course, one of the most important factors on the slicks on a damp track is getting them up to temperature so that they do have some grip when they hit those damp spots.
Exactly, Danny. That was the big thing. In our races, we don't have any pit stops and change tires, so I don't usually go at speed on cold tires. It feels like you have 4 loose wheels when you go out on cold slicks. The sidewalls aren't up to temp, and it's really, really hard on a wet track to get them that way. Until you do, it's a double-edged sword.
And word from the officials is that Michael Andretti was too quick entering the pits. He'll be assessed a black flag and a drive-through penalty for hitting 71 miles an hour on his pit in. The speed limit in the pits is 60. Michael 5th in the championship coming into this weekend, 40 points behind series leader Alex Zanardi, and now he has old rival Al Unser Jr. just behind. Recall a year ago when Al Unser Jr. was leading the race on the last lap, and just a couple of corners from the checkered flag, his engine let go, allowing Michael through. The only lap Michael led on the day was the one that took him to the checkered flag.
And you could see in that shot just previously how much he pulled out through the carousel just on slick tires on that dry line. Look here, though. It's too damp down there. Uh-oh, he's in the gravel pit. They said if you go in the gravel pit, your day is done.
Danny, this is a flashback. Remember Brian Herta and Paul Tracy? They went out on the slicks at Portland, and they also went off track. And the same thing happens to Michael here. And in fact, everybody from Mo Gugelman's team was nodding, saying it's too soon, and now they know they were right.
Marty, as we said, up at the top, it's pretty dry, but you get down there at the bottom part of the track, the lower part in the elevation underneath those trees, and I'm sorry, but it's just still too damp.
Corner workers out there to put the belt on. Now, the drivers were told before the race that if you get into the sand trap, your car will be lifted out of the way and your race is over. And now the double yellow flags wave from the flag stand. It's going to be a full course caution. Down into Canada corner he came, and the car immediately under braking, locked up and spun off.
Of course, you can see, look how shiny the tires are. Right on top, how shiny they are. They are damp. When they get that wet, there's nothing you can do. Look at them. Look how shiny the tires are on the top of the tire. They are just too slick.
Gary Gerald is standing by with Michael's crew chief.
Lee White just went back up on the wall. He was watching with great interest the replay, and now I believe he's in conversation with his driver. He waves us off for the moment. We won't be able to get a word with him, but we're wondering about if his feelings, if they just made the gamble, excuse me, too soon. You see that Michael is being lifted now by the Gale crane, and our leaders are taking advantage of the full course yellow and making an appearance on pit road.
The problem for officials is this track is so long, they don't want to spend 4-mile stretches behind the safety car if they can avoid it. Mark Lundell is in. Marty Reed.
Mark Lundell, the first one in, and he's going to the race slicks. And if we pan right around, you'll be able to see that Dario Franchitti is also in, and he is going to race slicks as well. Everybody topping off on fuel. And also we're seeing one of the target cars come down. Mo Gugelman has now made it into pit lane and will come back the other direction. We've got all three guys in and everybody going out on slicks.
Well, they all saw what happened to Michael Andretti. What we may be about to see is a car control battle down there on the backside where the trees hang over the racetrack, and it is still very wet.
The problem is, oh, look at Dario. Oh, he has ruined his day and those points for the rookie. I thought he was very aggressive going out of the pits. He actually looked like he was going to pass Mark Lundell down the inside going into turn one, which you can't do. You're under a yellow situation. I think he was trying to get his tires up to temperature.
Off comes the steering wheel and out climbs the young Scottish-Italian driver. Here's another look from outside, down in turn one.
See, he just tried to get on the gas too early with, first of all, you've got cold tires. Second of all, you've got a slick track. And you go out there, it takes a couple laps to get him up to temperature, and he just tried a little too hard too soon.
There's Carl Hogan, his car owner. Once again, a great qualifying performance has come to naught for this team. There's the other early casualty of the slick conditions. Michael Andretti's race is over. The defending champion is gone. The skies remain absolutely socked over with clouds. We'll take a break and return. We're under caution here at Road America as the Texaco Havoline 200 continues. The patches of light pavement during hurry down tell you that the track is drying. The entire field is now on slicks with the exception of the race leader.
And look at Dario Franchitti. Now watch what he does. He's going to stay over here on the kind of on the damp, right there on the damp, tries to get on the throttle, loses control, goes over and smacks the wall. Now earlier I saw him trying, right when he came out of the pits, he looked like he was going to go up the inside of Lundell, like he was going to make a pass. And I've got to believe that he didn't think it was yellow, that he thought he was going to, you know, have a chance to get by him. Tommy?
There's no other explanation. I mean, it's really too bad. I've been pulling for Dario. I met him at Helsinki in 1995 at the ITC race and find myself pulling for him a lot, but there's no two ways to slice that. That is a huge mental mistake because the pace car is out. He couldn't improve his position.
Tommy, I agree with you. He's a great guy and obviously a very quick driver, and they've come so close so many times that we'd like to see a good result, and he looked like he had one going for him today.
His old ITC mate with Mercedes, the former series champion Bernd Schneider, is here this weekend to watch Dario in action. Now here's Brian Herta's pit window along with Mark Lundell and Alex Zanardi, the two cars following him. Herta did not stop. He is still on wet weather tires. Yellow slashes are the laps that were run under caution. You see, we are currently under caution for all three drivers. Herta will be approaching his fuel window shortly. Alex Zanardi passed Mauricio Gugelmin on his pit stop, and Andre Ribeiro passed Raul Boisel. Jimmy Vasser passed Alonso Jr. and Michel Jourdain during the pit stops as well. The green flag waves on lap 19. We are back underway. A gamble on tires now for Brian Herta, the only driver on the treaded wet weather rubber. Behind him, Mark Lundell, Alex Zanardi, Mauricio Gugelmin, Gilles de Ferran, Greg Moore, Scott Pruitt, Andre Ribeiro, Raul Boisel, and Christian Fitipaldi. Bobby Rahal is 11th, Jimmy Vasser 12th, Parker Johnstone 13th, Alonso Jr. 14th, Michel Jourdain Jr. 15th, Adrian Fernandez 16th, PJ Jones up into 17th, followed by Max Pappas, Richie Hearn, Juan Fangio, and Hiro Matsushita.
On these slick tires, of course, they can take, it's very tricky to pass off that line because that's the damper part. You want to pass, but if you step out of that dry line, it's very tricky.
Watching the cars slewing around on the wet part of the track using those slick tires.
Bob, this is playing perfectly into the strategy of the Brian Herta camp right now. We checked with them just before they went green and said, how much of a gamble? And they said, well, what we want to do is we just want to watch and see how much the other guys slip and slide. We're hoping that we'll be able to stretch the fuel mileage here under yellow. We know that we don't have a whole lot of time remaining, but other guys are in fact slipping and sliding.
Looks like Adrian Fernandez is off. Walter Salas is slow on the racetrack. Looks like he's waving for a push. He may have stalled the car. Well, he's had a dramatic race so far. He was a part of that turn 1 crash that took Paul Tracy out of the race.
They don't have to push him very far because it goes downhill just past this. If they can get him going, they're a little bump start and away he goes.
Herta is going to come in as they go yellow. This is good news for them. They'll make the change now under the luxury of the yellow. They'll lose track position, but not nearly what they'd lost if they'd have been under green.
Well, he would have had to stop soon anyway as he approached his fuel window, and with the 4-mile race lap, you don't want to get it wrong.
Everything looking routine. Flips the throttle mildly a couple of times. Everybody has got to be so careful because pit road is still much more wet than the front straightaway. This could be critical right here. Just under 17 seconds, not particularly fast.
Gary, I also saw him make a wing adjustment on the front. I couldn't tell which way they went, but they were making some adjustment on that front wing.
Brian Herta back out as one of the Gurney cars pits under this caution. Working lap number 20. You see how the car twitches around on slick tires on this still damp circuit. We'll be back with more from Road America. Welcome back to Road America. Bob Varsha and Danny Sullivan with you. Marty Reed and Gary Gerald in the pit lane. Tommy Kendall down in turn 5. Looking at race leader Mark Lundell as he comes around to lead the field up to the green flag. Off comes the safety car. Of 28 starters, 24 cars remain in the running. Lundell comes up the rise, and behind him, Mauricio Gugelmin is slow, losing traction on the wet part of the racetrack. It looks like Alex Zanardi has gone by. That traffic is bunching up behind. This is turn 1. Daring move by Andre Ribeiro.
That was wild, but I had the impression that actually
contact Juan Fangio on the right and Hiro Matsushita on the left. Meanwhile, picking up the action from overhead.
I had the impression that Zanardi actually was slow. I saw him, Mark Lundell, just go out of the screen, and it was like Zanardi was caught asleep and misjudged the start.
Well, Zanardi's awake now because he is all over the leader. The
The traffic down there between 4 and 5. And we have another full course caution. No doubt for that contact between Fangio and Matsushita. So things are a little chaotic, and boy, that was obviously more than a little contact.
Everybody is trying to make the most of these restarts, but they have to remember it's cool outside, their tires are damp. Under these conditions, you can't get your tires up to temperature or an optimum operating temperature that quickly. So everybody's sliding around, slipping and sliding, and throwing some races away too.
B.J. Jones take the opportunity for another pit stop. That's the third stop for Jones. He remains the only unlapped car on the lead lap, or the last of the unlapped cars, I should say. B.J. would love to be in that position of being the only unlapped car. And he's going slowly. Back under caution here at Road America. Stay with us. Back at Road America, there is P.J. Jones. Let's get it all straight. It was Jones and not Fangio who collided with Hiro Matsushita, bringing out the full course caution that is about to come to a conclusion. He's made a couple of pit stops to have a bent tie rod replaced. And now he has fallen one lap down. And we saw him go by the safety car, but he came back into the pits to work. It appears he will not be penalized. At this point, would be adding insult to injury since he has gone a lap down. There's Mark Lundell, the race leader. Alex Zanardi, Mauricio Gugelmin follows. Then Gil DeFerrin, Scott Pruitt, and Christian Fitipaldi, who started 18th and currently runs 6th. On the backside, skies are growing darker once again. And it appears to be a fairly dry line developing. Tommy Kendall, how's it over by you?
The skies look okay, but the clouds are really moving. So depending on if the wind shifts, it looks pretty good the direction it's coming from. But if the wind were to shift, there's dark stuff all around.
We've had 4 cautions for a total of 12 laps thus far. The record for most cautions is 6. The record for most laps, 16. So we're getting close. Green flag wave. We are back underway on lap 24. And Alex Zanardi immediately on Mark Lundell, headed for 1.
He just dove up. He got on that slick part on the inside. He just lost a little ground. It was just a little too slick. Mark had the better line. I'm sure Alex will be on his way back up there on that dry track there.
Mauricio Gugelmin runs in third and closing on Alex Zanardi. Brian Herta, before we went green, made a pit stop to top off the tank. He should be able to run the rest of the way.
Saw those sparks coming out from underneath Alex Zanardi's car at the front, where he was bottoming under braking, taking him in there very deep.
There's Christian Fitapaldi. You ride with him. Just ahead is Scott Pruitt.
Sorry to break in, guys. We have Parker Johnstone and Jimmy Vasser. It looks Parker ran over Vasser's wheel. Vasser's underway, but Parker looks like he's heading through the escape area into the. He is down the escape road.
Now the drivers are allowed to take that shortcut if they need to head for the pits, but they have to wait until they're allowed through. As you watch Charlie Nierberg from Texas enjoying his second start in the series. He had hoped to start at Mid-Ohio a week ago, but the car broke on the starting grid and he never got to take the green flag. There's Parker Johnstone. Now he can make a turn. He'll have to go to the pits. He will lose a lap.
Not with that steering wheel coming out. Looks like he thinks his race is done. He's pulled the steering wheel out of the car. He's unbuckling. He's got a bigger problem than just worrying about getting back up the pit road.
Up the hill from Canada Corner they come. Fitipaldi still all over Scott Pruitt. Turn 14, headed for the start-finish line. Bob Vasser, Danny Sullivan, Gary Gerald, Tommy Kendall, and Marty Reed with you for round 14 of the PPG Kart World Series, the Texaco Havoline 200. Cars still closely bunched, headed down into 1. Bobby Rahal took a look down. Greg Morrow, Adrian Fernandez, and Raul Boisel.
Boisel got up on the inside of the track there and looked like he locked it up in the wet and just lost it. Andre Ribeiro, minding his own business, was just taken out in the incident.
And once again, the yellow flags fly. Ribeiro on the left, Boiselle on the right. 2 more cars out of the race.
See in the back of your screen right there is Boiselle on the inside, the damper part of the track. Here's Ribeiro right there. Boiselle under braking, loses it. Ribeiro does not see him trying to go through the corner. Wham! Hits him from the side. Unfortunately, those boys' day is done.
Andre Ribeiro, completely innocent bystander in that situation. There's Boiselle.
Now you can bet that this conversation between the two of them will not be in English.
That's one of those situations where Andre is probably livid, not knowing exactly what happened. He probably thought that Raul was up underneath him just to get a stop and kind of punched him in the side. But, well, he doesn't look too animated, so maybe he does know what went down.
Well, it looks like it's a friendly conversation in Portuguese between the 2 Brazilians. For Raul Boiselle, his 3rd DNF of the year. For Andre Ribeiro, his 5th. We have our 5th full course caution of the day. Race leader Mark Lundell brings them up the hill.
This has got to be so frustrating from a driver, Tommy, don't you think? You just start to get going, you're back in the, 3, 4, 5 corners, full course yellow. You can't get your momentum, your rhythm. You can't get into the groove.
Yeah, it drives you nuts. I'm sure Zanardi has looked like he has something for Lundell. And just when you get going, obviously it stops. I'm not sure what you can do about it, but these, on a 4-mile course like this, it really has an adverse effect on the show. But, in F1 where they can reach in with those cranes and pull those cars out, all these cars aren't really in dangerous positions, but you don't want to leave them in case another car comes piling in.
Especially under these conditions, too, Tommy.
Gerald is standing by in the pit lane with Michael Andretti.
Well, I know that Michael Andretti, that this is tough to talk about, but I got to ask you, was it the right decision to, and I believe it was your call, to make the change to the slicks, and you were kind of the guinea pig?
Yeah, I still stick by my decision. It was definitely the right decision. I mean, when I came out of the pits, I was in front of Al Jr., and he was all over me until we got to the carousel, and I pulled him about 3 or 4 seconds just through the carousel and the kink. So I knew at that point that I made the right decision, and I just went in under braking pretty much at the same place as I was with the wets, which I had done in other corners, and I thought I'd be okay, and it locked the rears, and I tried to save it, and I didn't, and I just screwed up, but I still feel I made the right decision.
And with it, the championship, I guess, is gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame it came down to that. I just you can look at a lot of different races, and but this one hurts when it's the one that actually does it, and it's my fault. So it'll be a long night tonight.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
Michael Andretti becomes the 2nd of the 10 drivers still in the championship hunt to drop out of the race. As you see, Andre Ribeiro beginning the long walk back. Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti both out. Mark Lundell is the race leader over points leader Alex Zanardi. Stay with us. Welcome back to Road America. The sky's lightening once again. The pace car pulling ahead of race leader Mark Lundell as the Texaco Havoline 200 has reached the halfway mark. We are working lap number 27. There's Mark Lundell. And look at the difference in his lap speeds between using the wet weather treaded tires, 115 mile an hour average, and the slicks, 126. That is 11 seconds of elapsed time on the lap. On board with Alex Zanardi. Lundell going for the break here as we get set for a restart on lap 27. Up the dry line they come. Lundell, Zanardi, Gugelman, DeFerrin, Truex, Fitapaldi, Moore, Rahal, Unser Jr., and Jourdain in the top 10. And here comes Gugelman, looking for second around Zanardi.
He's a little slippery in there, but he's got it. But look, he held him off good. He slowed up a little bit in the corner, protected that line, and blocked Zanardi.
Now an interesting situation. You ride on the nose of Gilles DeFerrin's car. DeFerrin 3rd in points coming into this round of the championship. And he is now 1 place behind the points leader. Tommy Kendall in 5.
The guys are starting be able to put the power down. They're just now starting to get racy. On that move into turn one, that's a pretty bold move in light of what brought out the previous caution. But Big Mo pulled it off, gave him a little brake check right there at the apex, and was able to hold him off.
Tommy, I also think they're going to get even racier on that second lap when they get a little bit more temperature in these tires.
There's no question. You know, up until now, you've been so tentative. You only had one lap at a time, but now they can finally get aggressive. You can start feeling the grip coming in the tires. You're going to see those lap times tumble.
Let's go to Gary Gerald standing by with the two men who brought out our most recent caution flag.
Well, they are side by side. We'll start with Andre Ribeiro. Tell us what happened from your seat.
Well, we were side by side before. This was the problem. Now, I passed Raul getting out of turn 11, and I was half a car in front of him on the outside going into the corner, and then something happened with him, and he touched on the back of my car.
You're obviously okay. Can you tell us what happened, Raul, that triggered the incident?
Yeah, we came side by side on the straight, and I think still wet there on the braking area, so I was on the inside. My car got sideways and we touched, and that's what happened.
It's such a treacherous condition out there for everybody right now. Is the driver who can stay extremely patient going to have the advantage, or is it experience going to come into play?
I think the track start to dry out. The problem is like overtake, you go offline, is still wet there. So that's the trick situation.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Watch Joe DeFerrin running in 4th place here at the Texaco Havoline 200 at Road America. Into the trees another time, headed for turn 5. Zanardi is over on the wet part of the track.
He pulled it off. He got inside. Big Mo's trying to cross back underneath him, but Zanardi was able to carry plenty of speed here. That's a beautiful move.
Beautiful move indeed from the points leader. Not racing conservatively on this weekend with a 27-point lead over Paul Tracy, who's already out of the race. There's Max Pappas in the MCI Reynard.
I think Max got together with Walter Salas, so you can see him. Here it comes.
Whoa, I would say so.
Walter's been having a pretty wild day today. We've seen him involved in 2 or 3 incidences, but he's obviously trying and feeling very aggressive.
His luck, he should have taken a cue from his card game.
That's right, where he was losing. If you weren't with us, we stopped in Walter Salas playing with his crew. He said if he lost a hand, he was done for the day. The race car, it's been pretty interesting. That's his 3rd incident unofficially. Here's turn number 14. DeFerrin and Christian Fitapaldi, who is now up into the 5th spot.
Christian's been moving steadily through the field in all the conditions. He's having a great race.
He loves this racetrack. He led this race for 15 laps a year ago before the car let him down.
Bob, we have a radio report that Christian Fitipaldi may be experiencing some problems with the ECU, one of the management systems on board. But he looks very racy as he challenges and runs behind DeFerrin right now.
In fact, Christian Fitipaldi has driven very well since his comeback from the broken leg he suffered at the beginning of April in Australia.
You saw him just hold his hand up like that. That's just a sign of frustration, like something in that ECU was cutting out if he's having an electrical problem. But he's all over Gilles DeFerrin. He's right there, poised for an attack. He's just got to keep going. There's not much he can do about the electrical situation.
While the battle unfolds, Marty Reed has Parker Johnstone.
Yeah, we're down here with Parker. It's nice to see you're okay. You're another one of the non-survivors in today's wet race. What happened?
Well, Marty, we had problems on Friday to begin with, but I'm real proud of this team, Cole Crean. They got the car working real well yesterday morning. We couldn't improve our qualifying because of the rain yesterday afternoon. We struggled a little bit in the beginning of the race, but as the track dried out, our car just got better and better. As we went down into turn number 5, everybody got log jammed on the inside. Jimmy made his one move, as we talked about in the drivers' meeting yesterday, to the middle, past Ray Hall. I went by Junior and Ray Hall and was on the outside of Jimmy, and as we got down into the corner, he moved to the far outside. I was looking at concrete or grass for the back of his car and decided to keep it off the wall, and unfortunately bent the front of the car. Real disappointment for our team, but we're looking forward to Vancouver in 2 weeks.
All right, we'll see you there.
Vancouver will be very close to being a home race for Parker Johnstone and Team Cool Green. Parker hails from Brush Prairie, Washington. Here comes race leader Mark Lundell, looking for his 3rd of the year and a chance to get a leg up on the guy following him, Alex Zanardi, for the championship.
Zanardi is flying. The lap before this, he took a full second off Lundell, and this lap he took another half second. So he here through turn 5, he's noticeably the quickest car and really taking it to Lundell right now.
Tommy, one of the areas I'm seeing on the overhead where he really seems to gain is under braking, and he doesn't lose the gap when they accelerate out of the corner.
That's the view from our Honda Helicam. 2 drivers raised in the cut and thrust world of Formula One. Mark Lundell picked up the first points for Mercedes-Benz in their high-profile marriage with McLaren. There's Zanardi's lap 30 mile-an-hour average. Second, in fact, a half a mile an hour faster than Mark Lundell, fastest of the group, making up the top 4 right now. Carousel. See the drivers hugging the curb on the driver's right of the carousel now. That's where the fast line is.
Bob, what they're really hugging is the dry line. They want to stay wherever it's dry. That's where the grip. Zanardi's right up behind him. It's going to be tricky going underneath there. It's still very damp on the inside, particularly at that corner.
These 2 lapping now 19 miles an hour faster on average than the fastest lap they could cut on the treaded wet weather tires. So slicks are the order of the day as we come around to complete lap 31. 19 laps remaining, 37.5 minutes roughly on our unofficial 2-hour time clock. And the best battle on the racetrack is right up front. Lundell with 2 victories this year and Zanardi with 4. We'll take a break and return for more of the Texaco Havoline 200. Stay with us for more from Road America in Wisconsin. Road America, you're looking at the 2 men who between them have won the last 5 races on the PPG Kart World Series. Mark Lundell and Alex Zanardi. They run 1-2 with a substantial gap over Mauricio Gugelmin, Lundell's teammate, who is dropping back in 3rd.
Bob, we get the feeling down here in the Zanardi pit that Alex is starting to chomp at the bit a little bit. Chip Ganassi repeatedly is telling him, take it easy, be smart. He wants a thinking man's race. They know there's a championship at stake. They've got a great opportunity to take another giant stride toward the title if they can produce today. So they don't want any mistakes. We await them now as they'll be having to visit pit road one time before this one's over.
Well, there haven't been many mistakes from Alex Zanardi this year. He told me earlier this weekend he is a much different driver than he was, trying to bring the reluctant Lotus along in Formula One that led to his huge crash, breaking his leg at Spa in Belgium back in the early 1990s. He said, back then, I had to prove to everyone that even though I had a slower car, that I could be the fastest. Now I don't do it that way.
And we expect him in the pits in 2 or 2.5 laps. They're out there at the carousel at this time, and we think we'll see a wing change up front as they'll impact the handling on the car. Danny, they're talking about going up a turn on the front wing.
With more downforce, he wants a little bit more grip at the front of the car.
Behind this battle, Mauricio Gugelmin is 3rd, followed by Gilles de Ferran. There you see the points in the upper left. As of this moment, Alex Zanardi would lead Gilles de Ferran, who would move past Paul Tracy, into 2nd. If the points were to be awarded right now, Greg Moore would stand 4th, the way he came into the weekend. There's Mauricio Gugelmin. Here comes Gilles de Ferran. Then Christian Fitipaldi, Scott Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, Greg Moore, Al Unser Jr. in 9th place. Brian Herta is 10th, and Richie Hearn is 11th, having come from the 24th starting position. A great run for John Della Pena's young driver and the Ralph's Food for Less Lola team. Sky's lightening once again. The track continues to dry out. Checking the average lap speed for lap number 33, Mark Lundell noticeably quicker than Alex Zanardi. Bobby Rahal and Greg Moore doing battle.
Bob, my question to you is going to be, when they come with this run of pit stops, what's going to happen to Brian Herta, who is not only went a little bit longer and refueled, he also topped off because he was at the back of the pack and did sort of an Alex Zanardi at Cleveland. So he's got a full tank of fuel back there. Can he move up some spots and possibly get in the top 3?
After a long day of waiting through the rain, the Texaco Havoline 200 is well and truly underway. This battle is Greg Moore trying to take Bobby Rahal for 7th. Moore is on that wet part down in Canada corner. Ooh, Rahal counterattacks. Moore is off. Oh, you could almost see that coming. That's where Michael Andretti went off earlier on the slick pavement.
And that's also where Greg Moore went out of the race last year with that big accident trying to go around Andre Ribeiro.
You see the young Canadian in the cockpit, shifting gears, debris flying through the air as he spins the rear wheels. And once again, when you're in the gravel, you are out of the race. Alonso Jr. takes advantage of the opportunity for a pit stop.
And this is not the spot to do it. It's the wettest part of the track. He goes down there on the inside of the track. He gets his tires all wet from that little puddle down there, and he has no grip.
And so the number 4 man in the PPG Cup Championship coming into the weekend is now out of the race, joining Paul Tracy, Michael Andretti, and Raul Boesel on the sidelines.
And of course, the person that this hurts the most, other than Greg Moore, is Brian Herta, because now with a full course yellow, you'll get a lot of the drivers coming in, topping up for the rest of the run, and he will lose his advantage that he had gambled on.
When that started unfolding, I said, wow, if he pulls this off, he is Superman, because that was, I mean, really wet on the inside. But I think it's easy to say in hindsight that was the wrong move. But you look at Alex Zanardi's pass last year at Laguna, you don't realize how close that one ended up from being a disaster. And there's a very, very fine line, and it's what makes these guys great is when they go for it. They don't sit there and wait for it to come to them. They take the bull by the horns, and it doesn't always pay off.
Tommy, I would agree with you, but in this race, at this conditions, with the championship or second or third in the championship at stake, you got to pick your spots, and I don't think that was one of the better spots to make my pass.
Flying around turn 14 and up the hill, excuse me, Tommy, the first 2 cars are into the pits. This is under caution on lap number 36. Marty Reed is at Mark Lundell's pit. Gary Gerald is at Alex Zanardi's.
Yeah, and the real advantage. Oh, and Bo Gulgerman runs over the hose on the left front tire, man, for Mark Lundell. Now, I don't know if he'll end up being penalized for that, but if you notice, Lundell is not taking tires, fuel only. He is down and away. 13.8 seconds.
Zanardi moving. Zanardi may have the advantage. Under 11 seconds, and he does have the lead. The pit work has paid off for Ganassi.
Wow, that was amazing. I thought Blundell would easily get to the pit out, but the Target Ganassi boys got the job done, and Alex Zanardi takes over the lead on the pit stop exchange.
They both had the same philosophy. Let's just put fuel in it and go. But Alex Zanardi put 11 seconds, and they put 13 seconds.
They flew into the pits. There you see Greg Moore standing on the wall looking for the short way home. Greg, there isn't one at Road America. Welcome back to Road America, where the PPG Kart World Series Texaco Havoline 200 will have 14 laps remaining. The next time new race leader Alex Zanardi takes the field past the start-finish line. We expect the green this time by what has been an amazing race on a constantly drying track. Zanardi, the series points leader coming into this weekend, is now leading the race. Second in points coming in, Paul Tracy, behind Zanardi by 27 points. Went out of the race after a collision with Walter Salles, the Brazilian rookie, at turn number 1 of the very first lap. Also out of the race, Greg Moore, 4th in points coming in. Michael Andretti, who was 5th, and Raul Boesel, who was 9th of the 10 drivers still in the running for the championship coming into the weekend. So the standings are going to take a shuffling as a result of this weekend. Now there is Mark Blundell after a quick 13-second stop in the Pac West pits. He gets to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, but ahead of him, Alex Zanardi's team beat that time by 2 seconds. and the Italian was able to get back on the racetrack in the lead, having come in second place. Let's check on our stories now. The weather, it has stayed dry. The track is drying. Everybody has been on slicks for quite a while. Staying on track has been critical. All of the top points earners in the championship that I just mentioned have gone out of this race for having slipped off the racetrack, with the exception of Paul Tracy, who crashed. All the rest simply slipped into gravel traps, and those drivers out of the race. And as a result, the championship is changing all the time, with one exception: the fact that Alex Zanardi has both the points lead and the race lead as we go green. And somehow Arndt Meyer has gotten over the Armco, and that could have been incredibly dangerous. That was down in turn 14.
And you saw, Brian Herta just tried to make a move there, and Scott Pruitt really chopped across the front of him. And Bobby Rahal, his captain and team owner, is taking advantage. So is Al Unser.
Brian
and
Herta
Richie
falling
Hearn.
back. I'm Bob Barsha along with Danny Sullivan. Tommy Kendall joins us for today's race. He'll be up in a moment. Let's take another look at what happened to Arndt Meyer down in turn 14 just as he turned for the green flag.
He tried, he got off there a little wide. He's out in the grass just sliding. Whoa, and look at that. Cleared the first barrier.
Oh my. There is Arndt Meyer, the young German. Shades of what happened a few years ago when Paul Tracy in qualifying nearly got into a spectator area.
Well, he's fast there, and look at that barrier, just lays back. Luckily, he goes right over it, and no damage to anybody else. That was a very lucky incident.
Nothing but a wooden storm fence between that flying car and a spectator area. That was scary. Meanwhile, back to the action. Alex Zanardi now drawing away from Mark Blundell after a spectacular exchange of pit stops. Mauricio Gugelmin runs third, Gilles Defer in fourth, Christian Fitipaldi in fifth, Scott Pruitt sixth, Brian Herta seventh, Bobby Rahal, his teammate, is eighth, Al Unser Jr. is ninth, Richie Hearn is 10th, followed by Jimmy Vasser, Adrian Fernandez, Juan Fangio, and Gualter Salas.
I guess the good news about where Arndt Meyer's car ended up is we won't have to go full course yellow to get it behind the barrier. He's already there.
Turning through turn 3, there is Al Unser Jr. Still on that drought, looking for a victory to bring Roger Penske his 100th. His teammate is out of the race. Headed for turn 5, and Tommy Kendall.
I'll tell you what, this is a classic Al Unser Jr. race, coming from way back with a car that wasn't quick enough in qualifying, staying out there all day, difficult conditions. It's picture perfect Penske and Al Jr.
You watch Scott Pruitt with a victory this year, trying to stay in the midst of the championship hunt. He has a big opportunity here. The two men immediately ahead of him in the championship, Greg Moore and Michael Andretti, are out of the race. Into the carousel. Long, long right-hander, now almost completely dry. Headed for the kink, was still partly wet. Meanwhile, up on the point, Mark Blundell in the blue and day-glow orange car closes up on race leader Alex Zanardi. The 9th race Zanardi has led this year. The most by the next biggest leader is 6th, held by 3 drivers.
It's interesting where the cars are quicker. Before that last caution, Blundell is really quick from turn 6 through 8, but then Alex pulls it out through the carousel and especially through the kink. So it makes for an interesting seesaw. We'll see what happens with the order reverse.
Tommy, I have a little report that Alex Zanardi ran wide at a corner and slipped onto the grass and lost that big lead that he had over Mark Blundell, which would explain why he'd lose so much ground in such a short period of time.
Flashing off into the woods. The track's still quite damp back here as they head for turn 5, then turn uphill, sharply uphill for turn 6. There you see how the gap has changed over the last few laps between these two men. Lundell perhaps driving a little bit angry at having lost the lead on the pit stop exchange. This is Hurry Downs, sharply downhill, a very muddy turn 8 where several cars went off in our wet morning warm-up. Then through turn 9 and into 10, the famous carousel. Plunging downhill at this point on the racetrack. Zanardi, Blundell, Gugelmin, DeFerrin, Fidapaldi, and Pruitt. The top 6 will be back in a moment. Welcome back to Road America. You ride with race leader and points leader Alex Zanardi. Could he be on the road to the PPG Cup and the $1 million bonus? I'm sure he would tell us if he could right now. All he wants to do is win this race. He has won 3 of the last 4 en route to the points lead. Out of the race is Greg Moore, another title contender. Gary Gerald is with him.
And so many of the title contenders seem to be falling by the wayside. Greg, was this just a case of getting over anxious, making a mistake?
It was just me making a mistake. You know, I got to apologize to all my guys. They worked their butts off this weekend. And, you know, I don't know if we could have cut Alex and Mark up front, but, you know, we could have been a third-place car, I think. And, you know, we made a couple changes that I don't think were the right way, but, you know, they're as much my decision as anyone's. And it's just pure and simple. I made a mistake. I got inside of Bob in the Canada corner. It was wet on the inside there, and it just spun into the gravel.
Is anybody conceding this championship yet to Zanardi?
Not yet, no.
All right, there you hear it as they head for Vancouver.
Vancouver will be the home track for Greg Moore. If Alex Zanardi can come through to win this race, he will eliminate 5 men of the 10 who came into this weekend with a shot at the PPG Cup. Those 5 would be Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser, Mauricio Gugelmin, Raul Boesel, and Mark Blundell, who runs second in the race right now. There's Al Unser Jr., who would probably trade every point he has right now for a race victory. It's been a long time.
Absolutely. I don't think that Al's thinking championship. He's definitely thinking about posting a win before the end of this season.
Down the high-speed backstretch, slightly downhill, lowest point of the racetrack. There you see Al Unser Jr.'s march through the field to his current 7th place. It was right at this point on the track last year with the race lead that the engine in his Penske let go. And it was another bitter pill for Unser Jr. Up front, Alex Zanardi with Mark Blundell just behind him. This is for the lead. We have 9 laps remaining. The upper left, you have the gap for the individual driver behind the race leader. 13 cars remain on the lead lap, and there are the cars who are out of the race.
Blundell is another one of those drivers who not really thinking championship. He's really thinking right now he'd like to post his 3rd win of the season.
And
he's
notice
far enough back that it's he's probably not a realistic threat for the championship.
The numbers in the upper left, Blundell faster on that last lap than the race leader Zanardi. Arguably the 2 hottest drivers in the series right now, winners of the last 5 races between them.
And as we heard earlier, Mark Blundell is negotiating his deal with Bruce McCall and Pac West. I'm sure this doesn't hurt in his negotiating power.
What a turnaround for Mark Blundell. Meanwhile, this guy, Alex Zanardi, seems to get stronger from race to race. Recall at Mid-Ohio last week, after his victory, he said, "We are now performing like a championship team." Flashing across the start-finish line, 8 laps remaining. Just over 24 miles between Alex Zanardi and what could be his 4th victory in the last 5 races. There's the view out the back of Alex's car. Mark Blundell will have to do it over again and try to close on the Flying Italian. We'll be back to Road America. Back at Road America, this is a battle for position. Al Unser Jr. is 7th. Bobby Rahal is 8th. There's Charles Nierberg. They caught him at almost the worst possible point on that turn. Rahal has to be careful here. And he goes around Unser, headed for turn 5.
Wow, it looks like Al Jr., he was heading steadily forward, but his progress has stalled the other guys lap time wise. He's also not, neither of these guys are keeping pace. So I don't know if there's a problem. They're both on Goodyear. You can't chalk it up to the tires, but little Al looks like he's gotten as far forward as he's going to get.
Tommy Kendall joining us today on our broadcast, winner of 10 straight SCCA Trans Am races, including yesterday's stop in the rain here at Road America. And Rahal now drawing away from Unser Jr.'s Penske. There is Richie Hearn, who came from 24th to his current position, 11th. That's a strong run for the young California driver, now living in Nevada. Driving for John Della Pena, famed for picking great young stars. Still working with the Lola. They're making plans for next year to use a different sort of chassis, and there's a rumor going around they may make a change before the year is out. See the dirt and mud on the side pod of the car. Meanwhile, here is Gilles de Ferran in 4th. 3rd in points coming in. He has the chance to move past Paul Tracy. Alex Zanardi turned a lap at 139.548 miles an hour. That's his fastest lap of the day. If we were to award the points now at the upper left of your screen, Alex Zanardi would have 168. Gilles de Ferran 128, and Paul Tracy would drop from 2nd to 3rd with 121. Greg Moore, along with Paul Tracy, both out of the race. Michael Andretti, who was also out, would be stuck on 108. Scott Pruitt would have 94, Mauricio Gugelmin 93, and Mark Lundell 89. Looking back from Gilles de Ferran, there is Christian Fitipaldi, another driver who has moved forward.
Bob, with Christian, that may be a story of what might have been. Remember, he's still having problems with that ECU unit, and he's still running in 4th place.
And having started in 18th, that's a pretty stout march. Christian Fitipaldi comes from the Formula One ranks as well. Here's who's at home watching Christian in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Key Biscayne, Florida, his American home. 10 to 15 relatives sitting around watching the SBT Brazilian network. Our colleagues from SBT are with us at every stop in the PPG Kart World Series. Local time was to have been 4:30 p.m. Nothing like that. But you can be sure that they are all standing by throughout the afternoon to watch their favorite son in action here in North America. It has been a long day here at Road America. There is Scott Pruitt. 5 laps remaining in the race. Climbing the hill to turn 6. Good look at Christian. Now there's Adrian Fernandez, who's been off and on the track today. It has now been confirmed by kart officials that we are going the full 50 laps. There is less than 10 minutes remaining in the 2-hour window since we started, but we are going 50 laps here at Road America. Let's check who's at home watching Adrian Fernandez in Mexico City. 75 relatives watching TV Azteca. And once again, they've been watching for a long time. Beginning at 2:30 p.m. local time in Mexico City today. Obviously much later than that now. He too driving the Lola chassis for Steve Horn's Tasman Motorsports Group. There's the top 6. We'll be back for the checkered flag here at Road America in just a moment. There is Jimmy Vasser, the reigning PPG kart champion. And notice that black splotch at the top of his helmet. For a moment, we all thought it might be a tire mark, which would have been extremely frightening. But on closer inspection, it appears that Jimmy has taped up the gaps around his helmet visor to try to keep it clear.
I think we should point out as well that Jimmy, we saw that scoring, Jimmy has started 13th, now down to 9th. Doesn't sound real spectacular, but he was actually knocked off. He's been off the track. He's dropped way back, and he's fought his way back up to 9th spot.
You told me earlier today, Danny, these guys were all going to earn their money, and they have. Brian Herta just ahead. That's a position. Herta's 9th. Vasser is 10th. There will be 2 laps remaining next time by the flag stand. Now you ride with Zanardi. Oh, and Mark Blundell has a fire. Blundell, who was running 2nd, pulls off on the backstretch.
I can tell you that is the most frustrating situation you can have. 2 laps from home, running strong 2nd spot, comfortable, good points, and boom.
Danny, I was down here watching the telemetry, and you could see the oil pressure just drop on the screen, and then we looked up and saw the flames.
You see the local yellow. Mark Blundell would be advised to get out of that position pretty quickly.
That is almost a carbon copy of where Al Jr. let go last year. Same place, same motor, everything within in almost the same lap.
On board with Alex Zanardi under the Toyota bridge. This is turn 6.
That really takes the heat off of Alex Zanardi. He can not stroke it, but he can be a little bit more gentle, save the equipment, not have to worry about it.
About 10 seconds behind is this man's teammate. This is Mark Blundell. His teammate, Mauricio Gugelmin, now moves up into 2nd spot. Almost 10 full seconds behind this man, the race leader, Alex Zanardi, who will have 1 lap to go next time by.
And, of course, one of the people that is benefited the most from this is Gilles de Ferran, because it gives him a few more points, keeps him in there. He's a ways back, but it keeps him in the hunt.
5th DNF of the year for Mark Blundell, which explains why he lies 10th in points despite winning 2 races earlier this year. Getting to the finish has been tough for Blundell. Once more, the elevator goes up to the start-finish line, and the white flag waves in the hands of Jim Swintel. Skies brightening on the horizon. We may yet get a great sunset here at Road America. And that sun is setting on the championship hopes of all but about 4 other drivers in the PPG Kart World Series. There's Mauricio Gugelmin, the new 2nd-place runner. Gilles de Ferran is now 3rd. Christian Fitipaldi now up into 4th. Scott Pruitt 5th. Bobby Rahal 6th. There is Zanardi, an absolute dominator in the last 5 races, winning 4 of them, finishing 2nd in the 5th, and moving into firm control of the lead for the PPG Cup.
I tell you, you've got to love Alex Zanardi. Here he is in the thick of the championship, and up until 2 laps to go, he was fighting tooth and nail like he was fighting for his job. It's a tough situation when you got that much at stake with the championship, but he's a racer. He still wants to win.
Tommy, like everybody who's won a championship, you got to drive how it got you there. He's driven hard all season. He drove hard last year. It's what took him to the front of the championship, and there is no point in changing that strategy.
And as Chip Ganassi was saying a bit earlier, in the mid stages of this race, it has to be a thinking man's race, and I think he's going to be as happy with that. The fact that this fiery Italian has kept his emotions under control under tough conditions today and is on the brink of another win.
Well, credit all the guys you just saw on Alex Zanardi's timing stand. Chip Ganassi, engineer Mo Nunn, the rest of the team. They have been impeccable when it comes to finishing races this year. Both Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi. The consistency is there to take one of them to the championship. The checkered flag waves over Alex Zanardi, looking more and more like a champion in 1997. There is Brian Herta, who was 9th beginning the last lap. He is now stopped. It looks like it's down in the turn 8 area.
It looked at the angle that he possibly spun that car because he was facing against the track.
Well, we have been on the spin cycle all day long as the celebrations break out once again in the Ganassi team pits. A lot of laps led and the race victory. That'll mean another big check written by Target Team Ganassi Racing to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. $5,000 for the victory, $25 per lap for each lap led. Alex Zanardi, fist in the air. Life is good. Will he do it? Will he do it?
Tommy, you got a bird's eye view of what's going on right there.
I'll tell you what, that's the spirit right there. Alex has shown, I remember hearing after Cleveland, his crew told him they didn't want him doing that anymore. It was too hard on stuff, but looks like he said this one's for the fans.
Well, I can add to that story, Tommy. Alex was advised by CART not to do it again. They thought it might be dangerous. But Alex Zanardi is one passionate racing driver and one very happy man right now, having picked up his 5th victory of the year, the winner of the Texaco Havoline 200. Stay with us.
Again, in victory lane, it's become a familiar scene. Alex Zanardi enjoying the jubilation that goes along with a tremendous run now that's seen him win 4 of the last 5 and 5 on the year. They didn't want him to spin donuts, the CART officials. The crew, as all of them got donuts in hand. Alex has got one here now. They're going to enjoy this moment one way or another, and a donut salute here as he was out there on the cool down lap. This fun-loving Italian has a good time no matter where he is in the racetrack, and why not with the success. Alex saluting his crew. Tell us about this one and how tough was it to be patient today to not make a mistake?
It was very difficult, Gary. Sorry, I know it's not a good manner to talk with your master, but
we'll forgive you this time.
Well, I did some mistakes, and fortunately enough, I was able to come back all the time. I think we won the race in the pits today. We passed both guys into the pits, and I mean, I'm expecting this or something more from my boys. They're terrific.
That last pit stop was under 11 seconds. Lundell had his service complete, was closing on pit road, and then suddenly there you were with the advantage. Must have been a great feeling to look in your mirror and see him.
Well, I don't know whether that decision was took from Chip or who on the Target Chip Ganassi Racing, but they decided to leave me out with the same set of tire. Firestone has gave us such a tire that we can do the whole race, and they're probably good for Vancouver as well. So we didn't change tire, we just put fuel in, and that's how we beat Mark. But hey, the motor was pushing very well, you know, so I'm very happy. I mean, Honda is pushing hard, Firestone is pushing hard, Target Ganassi Racing is pushing hard. I do my part.
And there you are with a chance now to wrap up a championship at Vancouver, the next race in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I don't want to think about that, but anyways, it's good.
It's good, yes indeed. Marty Reed?
Yes, we're over here with Mo Gugelman, who's putting on a jacket. Go ahead if you need to button it up, because I know it's getting kind of damp and very breezy for you. So close again, second place. Take us through, were you having heart failure when you saw Lundell go up, thinking maybe it might happen to you too?
Got my concern. I had a problem in qualifying. Actually, on time on Friday, I had a problem, but unfortunately happened to him this time. I was running very hard in the beginning, and the car was running well for a few laps, but then I started losing traction, and I couldn't really run with those guys, either Zanardi or Mark. But in the end, I just got a lucky break. It was unfortunately for Mark.
As far as this race, though, I mean, are you getting to the point where you are wondering if you're ever going to get that victory?
You bet I'm going to get it. Just keep working up there. We got pole and we got second today. We didn't quite have the car for the win, but we keep hammering up there. We're going to get one.
All right, Mo Gugelman, second place. Bob?
All right, thanks very much. Here's a look at the final results. 5th victory of the year for Alex Zanardi. He becomes the second man this season to win 3 in a row. Paul Tracy was the other. Mauricio Gugelman finishes second. There you see 7th through 12th. Richie Hearn equaling his best career finish in 9th place. And for those at the back, disappointment, especially for Greg Moore. And for the likes of Michael Andretti and Dario Franchitti. And, of course, Paul Tracy, second in points coming into the weekend. He's not there now. Here's the championship standings after 14 rounds. Zanardi with a big lead over Gilles de Ferran, Paul Tracy, Greg Moore, and Michael Andretti. And those 5 drivers remain the only 5 in the running for the championship. Final thoughts, Danny Sullivan?
My thoughts are that Alex Zanardi did everything that he had to for his championship, extended his lead, and the other guys that were in the hunt, Michael Andretti, Greg Moore, they all faltered. Paul Tracy, with that incident, they all fell that little bit behind. It's going to be very tough for them to clinch that championship now.
10th victory of the year for Firestone and their 8th in a row. 5th win for Honda as they close up on Mercedes in the battle for engine manufacturer honors. There's Michael Andretti's car being pulled out. Tommy Kendall, your thoughts on the day here at Road America?
I'll tell you what, you can't help but be impressed with Alex Zanardi. In an era of great parity, the guy seems to have his own way, and whatever it takes, sometimes it's a better pit stop, and oftentimes it comes down to him. He always finds a way to get it done. I'm a little bit jealous of those burnout marks. I'm going to have to put a beefier clutch in my Mustang so I can compete on that level as well.
All right, thanks very much, Tommy. Thanks for being with us, and we want to wish you a lot of luck with the rest of the Trans Am season. Christian Fitipaldi finished 4th. He's standing by with Marty Reed.
Well, actually, it turns out it's Gary, but that's all right, Bob. We know it's been a long day. We interrupt as another journalist was talking with Christian. Our apologies. Christian, you had to fight an electronics problem that really cost you, what, the last third of the race? You were having to ease off the throttle each time you had to shift?
Yeah, every time I had to shift, I had to ease off a little bit. And the valve was blowing like, I think, 2-3 times per lap. It's really a shame because the car was very, very, very good. And I had a perfect balance. I think if we didn't have that problem in the engine, we really could have been up there in the top 3 because I was coming through the field like I passed Ribeiro, Moore, Pruitt on the restart, and I was right behind Gilles, and the car was like responding very well.
Even in spite of all of that, we know you have success in the rain. Were you kind of hoping it would stay wet all through the race?
I was kind of hoping it would be wet like through the race. I really wanted to start with a little bit more let's put it, I don't know if my English is that good, but wetter conditions. And it's a shame that we had to hold for so long to start the race, but I think that the kart people made a decision, and probably it was the right decision, but I was praying for a little bit more rain, maybe next time.
His English is good. His driving's pretty darn good as well, Bob.
No question about it. Thank you, Gary. Now, if you plan to join us for the next round of the championship, it'll be the Molson Indy Vancouver from Vancouver, British Columbia, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific on ESPN, Sunday, August 31st. Today's race will re-air 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 9:30 p.m. Pacific. Tonight or tomorrow morning if you're on the East Coast, and then again on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 Pacific. We began the day with 10 men in the running for the championship. 5 men remain: Alex Zanardi, Paul Tracy, Gilles de Ferran, Greg Moore, Michael Andretti. Join us in 2 weeks' time for the Molson Indy Vancouver to see if Alex Zanardi can win his PPG Cup championship. I'm Bob Varsha for Danny Sullivan, Tommy Kendall, Gary Gerald, and Marty Reed. Thanks for being with us. So long from Road America.